boys and girls. For all of you that took the time to comment, thank you very much. I'm gonna grab my phone here. So let's get to the comments. First one, Double D. Thank you, Double D. What music do you like to tune your systems to? High, mid, and lows. I have a list that I generally like to stick to. I'm not gonna say it's highs, mids, and lows. A lot of it's separation based as far as where the sound is coming from on the dash. And I'm a big vocals fan, so I really want to orient around that. And I really prefer to start tuning using real instruments, that kind of stuff. So my first option is actually Alice in Chains Unplugged, Down in a Hole. Let me just read them to you. I actually wrote them down. The next one's going to be Steve Winwood, Higher Love. That's great. Lots of real live instruments. And it does have a good bass track, so it does help out. If I want to put my mids to the test and I want to kill some mid bass, I do Megadeth Sweating Bullets. Get about halfway into the song and it just starts kicking in. If I'm trying to get the vocals right, I usually pick Disturbed, Sound of Silence, Johnny Cash Hurt, and one no one's probably ever heard of. His name is Taps Mugadza. He's only on YouTube as far as I know. He might do SoundCloud, that kind of jazz. But he does a rendition of, I think it's Numb and One More Light. It's a mixed blend. He's got a great voice and it's actually really nice for tuning to. If you want to just like an all-around good song to tune to, it's actually Janet Jackson, All For You. I think that one works really well. If I want to do any kind of bass or anything like that, it's Post Malone, Candy Paint. I think that one's really good. It plays 2 separate notes. Another one's going to be Chainsmokers Paris. It plays 4 separate notes on their bass track. I like to hear the different ranges. I like to try to get them as level as possible so the low end frequencies aren't either killing the upper frequencies or vice versa. And if I want some trap music, I go to Dioro 5 Hours. It does an interesting thing in the beginning where it's kind of just mid. It really shows off the location real well as far as bringing it up to where my eye level is. I want to hear that. Plus throughout the song there's a couple notes that go left, right, and center. And then I can really tell where the time correction needs to be when that one note hits. Obviously you can do that with vocals as well. Thank you, Double D. Next question is not really a question, but it's from Mark French. Thank you, Mark French. I can't think of anything, so I'll just say, how's it going? It's going great, Mark. How you doing, brother? Next question comes from David P. Thank you, David P. He asks, what sub do you recommend for daily driving? I listen to all types of music, from rock, metal, to rap. I have a JL Audio 500/1, willing to upgrade if I have to. I like SQ with some loudness when it's turned up. He's also asking, with the subs I recommend, what kind of box should he use? Well, I say stick with your 500/1. It's a fantastic amplifier. If you want it best overall, I would do 2 JL Audio 10W3 V3s. I would still stay ported box, but I would have a custom one built. Don't buy your off-the-shelf box. Unless you can find a manufacturer that makes one specifically for those woofers, and that's okay. But that's my recommendation. My next question comes from Rick Brubaker, and he asks, Fro, which Stereo King location do you work at? Well, as of right now, I work mostly at the Gresham store. I work 1 day a week at their Clackamas location, Portland location, whatever you want to call it. But I have become the manager of the Gresham store, so I spend most of my time out here. My next question comes from Talkin' Rain. Thank you, Talkin' Rain. And he said, I've got lots of questions. And he says he's got lots of questions. So let's start with the first one. Do active digital crossovers with separates make a noticeable difference than using speaker crossovers? It depends. If you're using a digital signal processor that can time align each and every speaker, the answer to that's yes. If you're not doing it, like through an amplifier where you're just actively crossing it over and you're only using 2 channels of time correction, I don't think it's a big deal. Unless you don't have enough power to run the passive crossovers as well. Other than that, nah, it's not worth your time. If you do have a DSP and you can time correct them separately, yeah, go for it. His next question is, in a small car with limited space, do you recommend 2 small subs over 1 large sub? When it comes to subs, is thick particle board better than fiberglass enclosure? I'm going to SW, but also like it loud. I'm assuming you meant SQ. In a really small car, it really depends on how much output you want. I'm not into big subwoofers. I'm a 10s guy. 2 10s and a ported box will absolutely slam as long as you buy the proper product and the proper enclosure. Your next part was particle board. So actually we use MDF, medium density fiberboard, versus fiberglass. Price-wise, the MDF is the more affordable way to go. Obviously you're going to lose a little bit of space because it generally has to be a little larger. But if you do fiberglass, fiberglass is great, but there's a lot of conditions involved. First of all, you have to have some form of ridges, that kind of stuff, so it holds its rigidity. If you do a large panel, and you don't have any kind of bracing in it, it's more flexible than a 3/4 inch piece of MDF. But if you have a lot of cool shapes and stuff, like you're build forming it to the corner of a car, as long as it's about 1/4 inch thick, it will be more rigid than MDF. The other disadvantage to it is you will have to pre-drill and find a way to mount your speaker properly. If you just try to put screws into it, they're just going to break. Next question comes from Carrie Neely. Thank you, Carrie Neely. I'm installing a back speaker wall in the rear of my 2014 convertible Camaro. Do you have any suggestions on how to add 2 12s in a ported enclosure? I am having a hard time figuring out how to do the fiberglass ported boxes for the rear and have them look good. I'm thinking of putting 2 or 4 high-powered 6x9s there as well. The doors already hold component sets. Thoughts, suggestions? Should I go with a sealed enclosure? It really depends on what you're looking for. My recommendation is this. I used to have a 1991 convertible Camaro. I took out the back seat. You have the center hump where the driveline goes through, so the box can sit on top of that. And then you're going to downfire the woofers. You can go ported or sealed at that point, really. Yes, sir. I'm back, sorry. If you're talking about the box. I would think about doing a downfire enclosure. I actually did it in my 91 Camaro. It was downfiring. I actually did a 4th order. It smashed. It was so loud. Sounded fantastic. Are you going to get a lot of SBL, if you will? Pressure? No, it's a convertible. All that's going to get blown out. But it worked really well. Downfire enclosure. Whether you do ported, whether you do sealed, whether you do band pass, you're going to get a lot more bass than if you went straight forward or up, for sure. As far as the 6x9s go, kind of depends. It depends what you're looking for. If you're looking for SQ, sound quality, 4 6x9s don't make any sense. If you just want volume, you want to hear them a long ways away, be my guest. Thank you for the question. I'm back. It's a different day. Is what it is. Got busy. I'm hiding right now. If you look back here, this is where we used to shoot our previous videos, back when I shot videos with Twan. Let's get back to these. Hopefully I don't miss any. If I do, I'm sorry. You might hear some noises. There's a lot of humming. There's air coming down right on top of me. If you get a lot of hiss, I'm sorry. It is what it is. I'm trying to hide right now. Do you guys ever go to SBL shows? Have you ever built the... Do you guys ever do SBL shows? Have you ever worked on a burp vehicle? Do you guys make more elaborate enclosures for customers? Like 4th order and 6th order band pass enclosures. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Third Era, for the question. Yes, we do go to SBL shows, or at least one of them. If I remember correctly, it's called Surf City Sound Off. It's in Lincoln City, Oregon, at the beach. That's the only show I know we do. Elaborate enclosures? Yeah, we build all sorts of crazy elaborate enclosures. 4th order and 6th order, not too much. We do have one guy that works for us, Corey T, which if you go back and watch the pedal box video, that's the gentleman that. He's been into SBL for years and years and years. He's built tons of SBL vehicles. He's more than willing to do it again. We don't get a lot of call for it here, but if they want that built, we automatically send it to him. Questions from Reggie. Next question's from Reggie Ferguson. I'm interested in finding out what your current top 10 picks are and how they've changed since you did your video in April of 2017. Well, Reggie, that's a good question. Head unit wise, it's still Kenwood. It's just not the whatever it was, 9903 or 9904. Now it's the 9905. I'm sure it'll be the 9906 next year. I've always kind of been a Kenwood fan. I used to be an Alpine fan. I think they've kind of dipped out a little bit from what they're previous path was, and now they kind of do their own strange thing. But audio feature wise, I am a giant fan of Kenwood's. That's not going to change. I still love XD amplifiers. The VXI amplifiers are the same thing with a Tweak 88 built into it, essentially. I'm a fan, but I'm also a little cheap. So if it's more logical to buy a Tweak 88 and an XD, a couple XD amps, why would I buy VXIs? Just my opinion. Speaker wise, the Flax are still top of the heap for me. Obviously a K2 is a better speaker, but once again, little cheap. Thank you, Reggie, for the question. When a new product does come out that I like better than that was on my list, I'll be happy to tell you. Next question, or questions I should say, come from Thomas Byers. I have Morel Ultimo titanium sub and a custom box in the back of my Outback. It came with a factory metal grill, is sturdy, but only protects 50% of the sub. Any recommendations on a grill that is sturdy and covers more of the sub, but still allows full excursion? Well, to answer that part of the question, there's two options. You can rebuild the box where you countersink the woofer and just use like a basic cheap grill, $10, $20 grill. That's option number one. If you don't really want to rebuild the enclosure or have a new one built, I think I would recommend building a ring that goes around the woofer that spaces it out, whatever you need to be spaced out. I don't know if you're carpeted or vinyl. And then just put a basic grill on. Is it going to look attractive? No, but it'll still function real well. Let's look at the next part of your question. I have an Alpine ILX 207, PDX amps, and audio control DMA10 processor. I have a bad turn-on thump. I've tried a capacitor on the processor that audio control recommends, but no success. The amps are on a relay due to 3 of them if that has an impact. I didn't have an issue when I used a massive audio Core 1 processor, but it controlled the remote outputs to the amps. Any recommendations? Couple options. First one is get a PAC TR7, set it up for delay, see if that fixes it. If I remember correctly on the DMA10 though, they have an input and output. I don't know if it's just direct through or if it'll have a delay built in. You might want to try that first because then you're not buying anything. Give that a try. If that doesn't work, then try a TR7 with a delayed turn off. I believe you can get the TR4 as well, and that's only made for that. Look into either one of those products. Hopefully that'll help you out. Next question comes from Kevin Braithwaite. Hello, I would like to know how do you determine how many watts to send to a speaker? 3-way setup. Any help would be appreciated. No one seems to talk RMS wattage when going active, just frequencies. And you're absolutely right. That's kind of the case. If you're trying to determine how much power each one needs, generally if you look at like the mid-bass speaker versus buying a kit, they have the same exact power rating. It's because I think they base it on the mid-bass driver because that's what needs the most power. In all honesty, I've looked online. I haven't had a luck finding a solution for you. At that point, I would contact the manufacturer directly. If you're doing the Focals, it's obviously just Focal USA. Morel, contact Morel and tell them exactly what you're doing. Main thing is set up your amps so they don't clip. Set them all so they don't clip. Get your gain set up. Turn on your crossovers. And you're going to know if it's too loud. You already have it set up so technically speaking, that speaker is not going to blow up because you're not setting it a distorted signal. Set them all up. Turn it on. Play some music. Obviously don't throttle it. Gain them back to they're matching your mid bass because obviously that's going to take the most power to where it sounds good for you. And then more than likely you're completely safe because it's already set for not clipping. But if that's not going to work for you, yeah, just contact the manufacturer. Tell them exactly what you're doing. Most manufacturers are more than willing to help you out. Next question comes from Alpha Omega. Is there a way to increase the signal voltage output of a PAC Amp Pro radio replacement interface, the RP4 FD11? Absolutely not, because honestly if you look at an RP4, the speaker wires don't go through the actual PAC piece. It's just simply going from your radio output right to the harness. So realistic at that point, you're just gonna add an amplifier. But yeah, no, the voltage output signal wise is strictly from the deck to the plug, not through the pack piece. Next question. L Fernandez 919. This is a great idea. Smart thinking on your part. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And my final question comes from my homies at 5-star. What is your favorite food? This is probably the toughest question, actually. It's not car audio related. I don't have a single favorite food. It all depends where I eat, kind of thing. I'm a big fan of a good French dip. Those are fantastic. I'm also a good fan of French onion soup. Once again, it has to be well made or I'm usually not a big pasta guy, but if you eat at Spaghetti Factory, I go with the manager special, which is going to be half Mazithra and half clam. And just about anything with chocolate on it. I really like chocolate. But I don't just eat candy bars, it's just something with chocolate on it. Alright guys, thank you for the fantastic questions. I hope to do this again sometime. It was a ton of fun. And as always, have a great day.